Welcome back to the Pagan Hearth community. There are times in the year for study, times for reflection, times for silence. Beltane is not one of them. Beltane is the fire that calls us out of ourselves and back into each other. We spent the darker half of the year turning inward. We've been quiet. We've been listening to that internal hum, sorting through the shadows, enduring the cold. But then, slowly, the world changed. The ground softened under your boots. The trees remembered the leaves. The air stopped biting and started breathing again. And now we stand here on the edge of summer, not as individuals, but as people. Beltane is a fire festival, but it's not the fire of a solitary candle on an altar. Close your eyes for a moment. Look back. Traditionally, these fires were lit on high hilltops, great communal blazes seen for miles, signaling from one peak to the next that the light had returned. Imagine the smell of that air. Not clean, not sterile, thick with birch and hawthorn smoke, heavy with the scent of earth waking under thousands of feet. You'd hear the cattle, restless, uneasy, as they were driven between two great fires, the Beltane, cleansed of winter's weight, prepared for the season ahead. You'd feel the heat on your face, soot settling on your skin. You'd see your neighbor, not as a stranger, but as a silhouette against the flame. People didn't stay home. They gathered. They brought food, salt and smoke. They brought music like a heartbeat. They brought themselves. Because Beltane was never meant to be practiced alone. It was the moment the village became a single living thing again. That's something modern life has made easy to forget. We've learned how to practice alone, how to study alone, how to believe alone, how to optimize our spirituality in the quiet of our own rooms. But Beltane reminds us, spirituality is not just something you hold, it's something you share. The old fires weren't just symbolic, they were practical. At the end of the night, people would take a brand, a piece of that central flame, and carry it home to their own hearth. Think about that. Every home warmed by the same fire. That's what we're rebuilding here at the Pagan Hearth. Not just a collection of people watching the same screen, but a shared flame in a world that pulls us apart into algorithms, into isolation, into curated identities. Beltane pushes back. It says, come outside, be seen, be present. Not perfect, not polished, just there. Because community isn't just people who think the same things. It's people who keep each other's fires lit when the wood is damp. There's another side to this fire. Beltane is often talked about in terms of fertility. But think of fertility as growth, as wild, unpredictable possibility. And there's nothing more fertile than joy. In a world that demands we be productive, useful, every hour of the day, Beltane reminds us celebration is not a reward for work. It is sacred in itself. We've been taught that if something isn't serious, it isn't spiritual. Beltane disagrees. The laughter that breaks out around the fire, that's a prayer. The dancing that exists for no reason but to feel your blood moving, that's an offering. Braiding flowers into your hair, wearing colors that are too bright, shouting into the wind. These are acts of rebellion against a world that wants you small and quiet. Joy is the fuel that keeps the fire alive. When we play, we drop our guard. We stop performing. We become human. And in that messy humanity, real connection happens. Connection requires vulnerability. You can't stand at the edge of the fire and feel its warmth the same way. At some point, you have to step closer. You have to risk being known. And yes, that can be uncomfortable. But so is growth. So is change. This is the threshold. Spring has done its quiet work in the dark. Now comes expression. Now comes movement. So as we approach the 1st of May, ask yourself, where have I been holding back? Where have I chosen isolation over connection? Where can I step forward, even just a little? You don't have to change everything. You don't have to be the loudest voice at the feast. You just have to take one step closer to the fire. Reach out. Invite someone. Share a meal. Light a candle. Together. Even 2 people is a beginning. Even one shared moment is a spark. We're not meant to do this alone. The fire is lit. The space is open. The season has turned. Come closer to the fire. We are the Pagan Hearth. Go out, celebrate, be human, and keep the fire burning. Good night.